You ask me if I feel embarrassed. It's maybe embarrassed is not the right word. It's maybe uneasy, because nothing to be embarrassed for. But I feel uneasy, like I feel uneasy now. Always I feel uneasy when I have to talk about myself. When I talk about other things, it's okay, but something that questions that have to do with my life, my career, things like that makes me uneasy. I don't know why, but this is it. This is the way I am. Just not to be part of the celebrity game. I mean, it works very well with me to be out of that circle. What serves maybe the celebrity age, the media, the papers, the television, and maybe the person that is the celebrity, but in this case, when it comes to me, I feel uneasy. And the interviews that I gave through the years, very, very rare, maybe just to make the point that I'm not dead. I'm alive, because I'm just hardly people can see me, and then and I'm asking the same question: why I'm doing this? What I'm doing now? Yeah, maybe because somehow I felt that maybe I have to do a little bit. Oh, what else?
For the freedom and glory of Greece! Zeus be with us!
Well, I first became aware of Vangelis, I think, with Chariots of Fire, which was really a knockout score and probably had a lot to do with that movie's success. It was a wonderfully uplifting, spiritual, because it was a spiritual movie. The man was running for God. Vangelis gets the heaven and the hell. I think music reflects the heart, the soul. There's a poetry, there's something between the lines. It's not spoken, it's felt, and it does wash the emotions and cleans it. It can be cathartic too, inspiring. Vangelis hits all those notes for me. It's great to have somebody work like that. It's just love. What you want from a composer in a movie is the love that an actor or a screenwriter or anyone or a DP, if you bring love to the movie, it shows and feels. Vangelis is a deeply quiet man. He's like a monk. I think he's a man who lives in his mind, who lives in his head. He's in the material world to some degree, but he's definitely off in interior world, as if he hears the music of the spheres, so to speak. I think my mother listens to Alexander, his album, over and over again. I do too. I find it very inspiring, and it's a wonderful. It brings out nobility in the person who listens, and I love that in music.
You can love them for years, feed them, nurture them, but still, they can turn on you.
Music is not our property. It's a way to express things, and it's a code. I mean, we can say, yes, I have an idea, or I imagine that, or I have an inspiration, but all that are words. And when you're available, like a radar, then the message comes, and then you have it.
Can you change the brush there?
This program here?
No. No.
That one?
That one.
And I was surprised to learn, you know, he is not a schooled musician. He writes nothing down. But within that one wave of sound, the components of that could be 10, 15 different things going on to make that particular sound, and which means there are that many variables, but also that many chances to mess it up. I guess if he were back in the 1700s or 1800s, he would do it the way everybody did it then.
I was invited to the birthday party of Sean Connery in Athens. I was the surprise guest because I did know Sean before, but he didn't know that I was coming to play. After dinner, people were sitting next to the fireplace, having coffees or whatever drinks, and I was behind this curtain with my mom on the piano, and we're just waiting. The curtain opened, and I was playing. And Vangelis was amongst the people, amongst the invited guests. And that's, of course, how afterwards we immediately started talking. And he said, "Oh, you must come to my studio." He called me, like he sometimes just calls. "Hi, Julian," and we have this joke with Vangelis. He always talks to me and I speak to him with a Scottish accent, imitating Sean Connery. So I can't do it very well. But anyways, he always calls, "Hi, Julian, this is Vangelis." And I'm standing in the rain somewhere, I think, was it London or Paris, something like this. He said, "I want to play you something." And okay, fine, so I'm just on the street, and he starts playing on his synthesizers. And he starts playing this violin concerto, the first movement of the violin concerto. And I was standing outside because he didn't stop playing. It was like for 15 minutes. And then he finished. "Did you like it?" I said, "Did you record it? Did you record it? Because this was incredible." He said, "Oh, I think, yeah." So it was recorded. And then I came to Athens and we started putting it together, basically. I started playing the violin part, etc., etc. There is so much wonderful music which nobody knows about. Wonderful classical music from Vangelis. And the only thing I can always do is try to inspire him to one day release it. But the thing is, because he cannot read or write music, that he needs to find a person who will write it down the way that he hears it.
Why we need music? Why everybody, speak the language of music? Why? I mean, you don't speak Chinese, you don't speak maybe another language, you don't speak Greek, maybe, but you speak music. Why we do that? Why we know? Why we whistle? Why we do la 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 even, when we're 2 or 3 years old? Why I started with music 4 years old? Who taught me this? So because it's implanted on us, in everybody. So that's why when people say, I know nothing about music, they mean that I've never been to school, I never learned notes, which I never did myself. And I still don't. But you can't say that you don't know about music because music made you. Music is the strongest thing. It's the strongest oxygen. Greeks, my ancestors, they had a very, very mathematical mind. And through that way of thinking and feeling, they find out that they knew, actually, that music is the first thing in the world, which shapes and makes move the world. All that maybe sounds a little bit crazy, but today, but they're not. And you see more and more and more and more, even scientists really learn the universe through music because music is the code. We are surrounded and covered by music. We're made by music. Now, what we do with music is, it's the mirror of our present state. Music can be therapeutic and it can be really a deadly weapon. The function of music always has been biological. It was the best language to reach the soul, and to get, and to definitely not to harm people, to make you a better person, and that is the music, the contact of the music to the people. And also the function of music for the scientific side is through that to understand the universe, the mechanism of the universe and the laws of the universe, because it's exactly the same thing. So the universe never harm anybody. We harm ourselves. We are destructive.
Rain and tears are the same, but in...
Okay, let's take it from the beginning, just to understand, because I never been a good pop star. I never been the type of Vangelis that the record companies try to sell. It's been always my biggest problem. I was promoted in a different way from the one I am, really.
Rain
Italian music used to be very big then, French music. Then the Shadows came in. We started creating our own bands, our own sounds, like the Minis, I remember now, and the Stormies. And the last album we did was an underground heavy rock album called 666, heavy name, heavy number. Irene Papas had a session into it where she was playing a woman that received the demon. And people thought that she was having a sexual act, so some radio stations banned the album.
A friend of mine had given me an album probably in 1971, and it was Creation du Monde, Vangelis Papathanassiou. And I was amazed that there weren't any other musicians written into the liner notes of the LP, you know. So I realized he made all the music himself, a one-man band, you know, one-man orchestra. And it kind of made me think, I gotta meet this guy. So I got a phone number in Paris, and I went to Paris, and I phoned him from the airport. And it was like, very simple. I just said, hello, hello, it was Vangelis. My name's John Anderson. I'm a singer in a band called Yes. What's that? You know, I said, well, I'm a singer, I'm a musician. Oh, come over, Johnny. So I went over to his apartment, and he opened the door. He's a very big guy, you know, to me, I'm a small guy. And he had a bow and arrow. He had a big bow and a bunch of arrows coming out of his sheath at the back of him. And, hey, Johnny, you know, I said, oh, Vangelis, how are you? And so I'm greeting this big guy. And went into his apartment, and he said, hey, Johnny, watch this. And he got a big arrow, and he had a very long sort of walkway down to the lounge, you know, and there was a bullseye way down there by the TV, and there's a little old guy sitting next to the TV who happened to be his father, Ulysses, you know, and he sent off this arrow all the way down, and it went right through the window. And I said, Vangelis, you're going to kill somebody here. Oh, don't worry, don't, I'm Greek, you know.
You ask me where to begin. Am I so lost in my sin?
So I got a phone call from Vangelis, and it was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, I remember it. Vangelis said, Johnny, you got to come over to the studio, we got to write a hit record. I said, what? Yeah, we've got to write something that the radio will like. So I said, okay, I'll come over. And he says, I think I have something going. So I went in, and it was this thing he had going on the keyboard. And I said, well, start the tape. And he started the tape, and I started singing, you ask me where to begin. You know, am I so lost in my sin? And I just sang it as though I'd written it the day before.
One world we all come from.
And we finished it at about 5 o'clock, and lo and behold, within 2 hours we'd written it, finished it, done. And the following Friday we were on top of the pops. Vangelis didn't know what it was. 2 weeks later, and it was a hit everywhere in the world.
Somehow we're going somewhere.
When you have the misfortune to be successful, then it works both ways. And for me, it's very, very difficult. I can't, due to the success, because the success is not the most important thing for me, to become a prisoner to the success and being obliged to produce the same thing all the time. And that's why I'm turning my back to things like that. So say I have to move to something, I've done it, but I don't want to be obliged to do it. We've been #1, record after record.
The single and the album is #1 in Germany. We sold more than 1 million singles, 750,000 albums.
Mr. Vangelis has achieved the unachievable in Hungary, and this is to achieve the award Album of the Year twice, one after the other, in 1993 and 1994, which is unprecedented in the record industry.
I'm honored to be here tonight, representing both Spain and Portugal, to present you with this platinum record, which reflects the enormous success in our country.
This feels like Oscar night tonight, to present its composer a platinum album for Switzerland. So congratulations, Vangelis. And I have some good news, you're #1 in Switzerland this week.
It's false, it's manufactured. That's the problem, it's the manufactured thing. And what we do, it's like against the human itself. Because the primary reason is money. How to make money. How to impress and how to make money. Money, 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 money. But to monopolize the whole humanity, I think this is something that destroys more than anything else. Even young people, 15 years old, the only thing they want is money. Be famous and money. And how many mediocre guys, became famous by selling nothing? And give the example to kids in order, they're old now and they're doing exactly the ridiculous same thing. But it's madness what's happening. They say, but we give people what they want. And I think it's totally immoral and wrong to say that, because we push people and we educate people to give them what we want. We're using this incredible divine thing we call music, which is the most powerful thing today, to influence and change things around. The function could be fantastic or could be catastrophic. And I'm afraid that today we're going that way. And through music, even they get drugged with music now. It's the new drug. You can market anything you want with music.
Barilla. Un mondo di idee per ogni tua voglia.
I met Vangelis through his girlfriend, who was the same size as Vangelis. She was wonderful, though. She was enormous and sensual, and a French woman called Fanny, of all things. And she was a fantastic Fanny, because she also was an old girlfriend of mine, the family of a girlfriend I used to have in the 60s. So through Fanny, I was introduced to Vangelis, and then through Vangelis, I met Frederick Rossif. And I then started to work for Rossif on making commercials and documentaries. And I used Vangelis, early commercials, a number of French commercials. He did them, and he had this, immediately you could see that this was a man you have to work with, because instinctive reaction to image. Showing the image, he immediately goes straight to the keyboard and goes, and it fits, always used to fit all the time. He had this uncanny ability to understand the flow of pictures put together.
So I just loved him from the word go. And he showed me around the apartment, and there was 2 or 3 nubile girls hanging around, as always. And he had a pile of cassettes in the middle of the room that he was sorting out, and he put them into his boom box. He had a sort of early boom box in those days. And this music would come out. It was like a symphony. Every cassette was a symphony, or a piano symphony. And I was just amazed.
So you have, I mean, millions of possibilities. Just to be able to put things together and to create the right, whatever has been asked for from the music. As I said to you before, you have to be available, you have to be ready. Everything has to be ready in order to function. And that's why I have this system, because immediately I can call, look, I can call anything I want. All these things here, you know, let's have an oboe. And then, as we're here, let's have the clarinet. I play, you know, things.
You use the pedals to make the percussion, the timps.
It depends. I mean, there are many things I can call the teams. Teams. What are the teams? Here. So what do you want to have? You have. Here are the teams. With magic. Some nice bells. You want some nice bells? You know that, huh? Do you want a pizzicato? I can give you a pizzicato.
Show me the many horns.
You ask for it. Many French. I mean, we have a simple horn. But you have other horns as well. And if you put a tuba,
Мистера Вагельса я знаю уже 10 лет. Перекладываю музыку, которую он пишет, и записывает и на кассету, на ноты. Делаю диктант, можно так сказать, выразиться, как говорят музыканты. И это очень мне интересно, потому что я в первый раз встречаю человека, который одновременно пишет музыку, ее оркеструет, исполняет, все это одновременно, думает, какие музыкальные инструменты каким-то способом, педалями, рычажками в данный момент использовать. Это я все слышу, сажусь за пентаграмму, как еще по-гречески говорят, нотный стан, и все это перекладываю на ноты, чтобы могли другие люди это сыграть, музыканты, все лишь.
now from something completely different. With this situation here, you can go through the, let's say, conventional or traditional sounds, and then you can extend to other things which actually, you know, the conventional instruments can't produce. So you have really a spectrum which is infinite. This situation is ready for everything you wish, for everything the music wishes. And if I'm able or capable, I will deliver. If not, tough luck. have the tape Saturday.
Yeah.
We put it on, we mix it, and we send it to you. So if you have it by Monday.
From a musical point of view, I'm not concerned. From the censorship, I don't give a shit. You know. I was aware of them through Hugh Hudson. Hugh had been in RSA, which is my company then, for almost 7 years. And then Hugh had gone off and done Chariots of Fire. Vangelis moved to a glass studio in Paris somewhere. His studio was entirely in glass, in a courtyard, and he'd taken over the courtyard, put this glass studio there, and that's why I did 1492. He's always got this twinkle. He likes the ladies, I think. I shouldn't say that, actually. He likes the really ladies. And so there were some nice looking ladies kicking around. And being in the world of this kind of, it's not exactly rock and roll, but there's a lot of musicians and rock and roll types around him.
What are they going to cut, do you think?
I think that's why I've left most of the violence in, because I know I'll have to remove stuff. And I think I'll have a big problem with the hand being chopped off. Right? So? I will argue, because I think it's relevant and it's real. You know, it's not horror, it's real, right? So I'm going to argue with this.
It's not so hard anymore.
No. And I think I'll argue with they're going to argue about the throat being cut. So I could take that, because I think it's a little excessive, right? So that could come out. But the sword through the chest isn't no problem, right?
What, I mean,
the strangulation will have a big problem. You do me a rough. You said over here, it's going to go this, boom, and you go wham, you get the whole thing. I think, Jesus, I get it. Whereas a guy on the piano going, here we're going to have timpani, boom, and you're going, huh? And here's the horns, okay. He's playing on the goddamn piano. Sorry, I'm not that much of a genius, so. We put a little.
I did it.
Okay. Run it back. I put a cue, run it back down the corridor. It's very simple.
I see steeples.
You mean the same one that we had after?
I see
The
civilization.
one we just played at the end of the movie.
And I see spires that reach to the sky.
One thing that changed Sanchez, I did it, he didn't. Thank you very much. See what I mean?
On him.
And then it's the landscape. Courtyard, dismounts. Yeah.
All right. So.
Then it's the milestone.
All right.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do that from?
You just did it. Didn't you record? Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
C'est extraordinaire parce que tu vois, l'image et là sur un sujet pareil, on n'a pas vu, on voit pas ça.
Non. Mais toi, tu connais le film, t'as jamais vu le, comment ça s'appelle?
Si, j'ai vu un premier bout à bout. Non, mais sans musique, mais un premier bout à bout qui était différent. Mais là, c'est complètement différent maintenant. J'ai vu un bout à bout qui était.
I remember in Paris, very early 70s, I've been trying to convince the record companies to invest and to be interested in that area of music, what we call ethnic today. And of course, nobody was interested. I believe that the strongest thing for each country is the roots and the ethnic memory, the ancient. I do it by instinct. I never sat down and say, what is the most important to do this or to do that. Came naturally to me. I can't fight this unfortunate epidemic of bouzouki music. Even the name, which comes from an instrument, is because it was promoted to you. Nothing else has been promoted out of Greece except that. And that happened, since the 50s. Let's say this kind of touristic image. But there are other things, very, very important, very noble, which they never had the same chance. And still today they don't have the same chance. I mean, when I touch the area of ethnic music and ancient music, I will go straight to the oldest memory which I can reach. This music, it's the ethnic music of Greece. I mean, some extraordinary riches in different areas of Greece. Incredible ethnic music, very ancient, much older than the current bouzouki music. Epidemic. Maybe, I gave an example for my country, but in every country it's exactly the same thing. And they should treasure that. Instead of copying, the current fashion. And that's very, very important, where we come from. Memory is a very important thing, and we learn more by memory than if we go to school. Something that deliberately today the system tries to cut us off. My ancestors said, they never believed, actually. They knew ancient Greece was for knowledge, not for belief. Belief started through the Christian years. My ancestors believed, the more ancient something is, the more it's yours. And I'm very, very, very concerned about, not only about my country, but about every country, to preserve the roots and this ethnic richness. What is ours? Ours is something that lasts for forever. I mean, forever, but you know, the ever in this case, when the moment is now, the ever is the past. Very good television company, very strong. A lot of big television.
Be careful. Ah.
First of all, he's tremendously generous with his friends, with everybody. And on all levels, particularly on the artistic level, you see. He shares his joy in writing and playing music with the others, you know. He never let himself being asked twice to play something or to sit behind his instrument and give the friends some joy, you know. But also, you know, as a human being, he is a rare guy, really, you know. Very quickly you get attached to him. I met Vangelis in Rome when I was planning Bitter Moon, the movie. And Emmanuelle Seigné, my wife, was doing a film in Rome as well, and they were staying in the same hotel. And I don't know whether she had all the racket that all his entourage was making, and she told me, I met Vangelis and he absolutely wants to meet you.
What? Oh, no.
He loves movies. He does not try to promote himself through the music he writes for a particular film. He tries to illustrate the film and expresses the feelings that the film does to him.
I looked all over for you, you know. Did you ever think you'd see me again?
Yes.
Really?
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 Yeah.
You kept it.
My feet are cold.
With all this, he's extremely humble, you know. There's no streak of megalomania in him, you know. He's a real artist. That's what we understand, you know, by an artist, you know. It's somehow who loves his craft, you know. And he expresses what he feels.
I'm just a painter.
If you were just a mere painter, I could ignore you. When you move people, you get inside their heads, inside their hearts. And God knows what you might start doing in there.
Art always consoles pain-filled people. Are you going to throw all artists on the pyre, O Grand Inquisitor?
No. Not all artists.
It was evident that he wanted me to paint his portrait, but it was more than that. For 2 whole days I tried to concentrate on the portrait, but he wouldn't stay in the same place.
Show me.
A través de Irene Papas conozco yo a Vangelis, pues hace ya casi 12 años, y cuando conozco a Vangelis voy a su casa y veo en su casa alguna obra. Y le digo, ¿esta obra es tuya? Y dice, sí. Digo, luego, ¿tú eres pintor? Y dice, yo pinto. ¿Desde cuándo pintas? Desde los 7 años. Él no quería presentar su pintura. Decía que su pintura era como su alma, su vida, y que estaba siempre con él. No quería que sus cuadros salieran de su casa porque eran como sus hijos, y sus hijos no los quería dejar por un tiempo en una ciudad del mundo. Yo le dije, Valencia es distinta, pueden estar tus hijos perfectamente, estarán en un espacio magnífico. Le envié los planos de un espacio que se llama El Almudí, que es un antiguo granero de la ciudad reconvertido en espacio cultural rehabilitado.
She came to Greece many times. Many times. This was very hard for her. She used all the people that she knew that knew him, and she tried to press. She is a woman very with this character, very typical Spanish. Puts like all her soul into what she wants to do, and when she saw this, she was crazy about it. And she said, Vangelis, I mean, I don't know what I prefer you. I know you from before, but I think the world is entitled to see. You have not to keep it inside. So he said, no, no, no. And this thing was 3 years. She was after him. And suddenly, she caught him in a moment that he didn't understand what he said. And when he realizes the paintings are on their way to Valencia.
A partir de ahí, la obra fue muy apreciada por directores de museos de otros países del mundo que vinieron a ver la Bienal y pudimos hacer una itinerancia de su obra que duró 4 años. Tuvimos la obra 4 años, los hijos de Vangelis 4 años por el mundo, como si estuviesen haciendo una carrera fuera de Atenas.
We were in Uruguay, we were in Argentina, we were in Brazil, we were in Dominican Republic, in Cuba, and in Mexico. While we were in a country and the other museums, they were learning that this was there, they were calling, can we have it?
Él, cada vez que pedíamos permiso para sacar su obra al exterior, decía, esta vez ya la última, esta vez ya la última. Y siempre había otra y otra y otra, hasta que fui un día a Atenas y le dije, mira, ya no me vas a decir la última será cuando acabe este ciclo. Firmamos un convenio, acabó el ciclo y los hijos volvieron a casa.
People was coming to touch me. People was coming to ask me for autographs. And then one day I said, no, I'm not, why should I give you autographs? I'm not Vangelis. So when I asked, one guy comes one day and said, can I touch you? I said, why are you asking to touch me? So he said, because you are the closest person to him that we ever will see. From Brasilia, they were coming to Salvador. I mean, it was incredible. The same thing in Argentina. I saw people coming from Patagonia, from Ushuaia, especially to the National Museum in Buenos Aires to see his exhibition. And, you know, all the museums, they were national museums because Vangelis, he doesn't sell. He doesn't want to sell, even though I have tried. And Consuelo also, this is one thing that her and me, we couldn't push him into it. In Valencia, I had a lot of requests.
But he won't sell.
Oh, he won't even talk about it. So one day I said, Vangelis, where is all this, you know, I don't want to exhibit. So he said, Connie, because this is a part of me. I feel like I'm putting myself naked in the middle of the central square.
Yo creo que la obra de Vangelis para su país y para otros países es importante porque, como he dicho ya antes, es un artista como los artistas del Renacimiento. Es un artista ecléctico, es un artista multidisciplinar y es un artista potente.
was about 15, 16 years of age. And every year we school, of course, organize art exhibition, paintings. And of course, it was obvious that, exhibit a few of my paintings at the time. And I remember that year, something extraordinary happened. I went to the room, to this place that everybody exhibits, all the, the school, pupils, how you call it, yeah. Mm-hmm. They exhibit their own things, and mine as well, and mine disappeared. Somebody stolen my paintings. I never found one who, but I was devastated, and I couldn't believe that someone is able to do such a thing.
I can never remember dates, but it was with Donald Sutherland, and we went to the apartment where Vangelis was, or lived at that time. And by the end of the evening, he was so impressive to me, and he played some stuff on the organ, and he's the only one, I think it was an organ. I don't like the organ, but I liked him playing it. I don't like that kind of church music. It's too much wheezing about it to me. And I mean, it's decks and decks of, and he's like the mad professor.
Yes, you know what, I think he's a very generous person, very genuine and generous. And I said, well, I went to see his painting, and he had easel, which were absolutely marvelous. I said, oh my God, where did you find that easel? I'm looking for an easel like that. I'm sending one to you. And I said, one day, Sean said to me, there is a monster of a thing arrived for you from Vangelis.
I didn't know that you had asked about the easel. I thought you just remarked on it. And the next thing was, no, you didn't say, well, where did you get it, and that kind of thing. Yes. I thought you just said, what a wonderful. I saw the easel at the time, and it dwarfed me.
My painting book was edited in Greece, and we were thinking that it would be very nice to accompany the book with a CD on a poem of Cavafy.
It's pretty obvious who this one is.
Called Ithaca. And we thought about Sean reciting it, me by me, long time ago. I said, if there is a composer, I prefer Vangelis. And I spoke with the editor, and he said to me, why don't you ask him?
Is the granddaughter on the telephone. And this is a very famous Arab from Edinburgh.
I said, yeah, but there is nothing for him. He said, you risk nothing asking him. So I called Vangelis at night, after dinner. I said, I'm sorry to bother you, but this poem of Cavafy that Sean is going to recite.
That's Fifi Le Bonbon here.
I would love you to compose the music.
She was playing rugby at the time.
Inspired by my painting,
And then it goes on.
if you agree, but I have to tell you, there is nothing for you. He said, oh, no problem at all.
Legs.
No problem. Yes, I will do it.
My legs.
Come to see me tomorrow. I explained to him what it is, and first of all, Sean said, okay, I will recite 2 or 3 sentences, and that's it. And Vangelis said, no, I want the whole poem.
Out of work actor now. I'd honestly never heard of Cavafy before. I must say, when I first read it, I thought it's a bit like a short story. It's not even, it didn't seem to be a poem, but when I started to work on it and read it and understand what it was really about, then it was okay. So I have a studio 5-10 minutes from here. And so I went on there and I said, I'm going to do 2 recordings. I'll do one slower and one quicker than normal. And he said, okay. So I recorded it twice, and he immediately come back and said, I like it slower. And I said, because you're going to get all your music in.
And all the money went to...
all of it.
And all
Totally.
it became part of this abandoned kids that they started, this trust. The wife of Nessus, who published all the books and everything. And we went and saw them, and it was so moving. marvelous kids,
Marvelous.
beautiful, and very kind of happy in a nice ambience. So then he set it up that we sold them for the trust, and they sold hundreds.
Oh yeah, yes.
When you set out on your journey to Ithaca, pray that the road is long, full of adventure, full of knowledge. The Lestrygonians and the Cyclops, the angry Poseidon, do not fear. You'll never find things like that on your way, as long as you keep your thoughts raised high. As long as a rare sensation touches your spirit and your body. Lestrygonians and Cyclops, wild Poseidon, you won't encounter them unless you bring them along inside your soul. Unless your soul sets them up in front of you. Hope that your journey is a long one. May there be many summer mornings when with what pleasure, what joy, you come into harbors seen for the first time. May you stop at Phoenician trading stations to buy fine things, mother of pearl, and coral, amber, and ebony. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you're destined for. But do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years, so that you are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you the marvelous journey. Without her, you would not have set out. She has nothing left to give you now. And if you find her poor, Ithaca has not deceived you. Wise as you have become with so much experience, you must already have understood what these Ithacas mean.
Thank you for pointing it all out, how it happened. That's really important.
The pleasure.
Okay.
And I salute him.
Yes.
I salute you.
And me, I give him a
Vangelis.
big kiss, a French kiss.
Oh, let's not get carried away.
И однажды кто-то из моих друзей притащил и сказал: это точно в твоем стиле, тебе обязательно понравится. И мы просидели просто там час, не шелохнувшись. И я понял, что это музыка, моя музыка, она во мне звучит. И что она обязательно должна со мной быть вместе со мной. Я еще не знал, что она мне понадобится для моей работы. И эта музыка, которая растворяется в пространстве, в природе, в твоей жизни. То есть ты не слушаешь какие-то песенки или ты не слушаешь какие-то очень многоэтажные здания, а ты как будто дышишь этим. Это в ритме твоего дыхания, в ритме твоего сознания и в ритме твоего состояния, в том месте, где ты находишься. И она такое впечатление, что ты есть она. Это молчание, это жест, это движение, и это ноты, эти развешенные в воздухе, которые создают эти нереальные миры, которые невозможно ухватить руками. И интеллект это бесполезен в этом случае, это только чувства людей, которые могут это все поймать и то, ради чего существует вообще все театр.
The staging of Methodia in Athens was a project that was more involved and elaborate than probably it should have been. But you know, it's the kind of thing where once you're in, you can't get out, and it was hugely complicated. Had I known how complicated it was going to be, I probably would have had second thoughts. When I was the president of Sony Classical, I was very eager to work with composers who were interested in connecting with the public. And I felt that the classical musical field in general had suffered at that time and had been suffering for decades under the yoke of the establishment of critics and academics who felt that any composition that had the slightest hint of popular success was artistically invalid. I had a commercial motivation. I was working for a record company that was supposed to make money. Of course, most record companies are all losing money, and they were losing money back then, and they're losing even more money now. At the time, I was particularly interested in trying to identify composers who really had not lost the spirit of what composition was all about, which was a bond between the public and their creativity. So Vangelis was somebody who fascinated me. I had a series of meetings with him in Athens and seemed to have a limitless supply of classical compositions, which he would pull out of drawers and closets and boxes. Basically, it seemed that he composed a symphony every night. So I had no idea that he was this prolific. He would play me these excerpts of pieces, or sometimes entire pieces. These listening sessions would go on till late in the night, and so much of what he wrote was amazing, you know, because of course he wrote in real time. He would sit down in his spaceship-like recording studio and just start making the music that he would explain to me was come to him from special sources. I'm being careful with my words because I don't want to mischaracterize what he said to me, but you know, he clearly felt that he was a vessel of some greater creative force or being that was communicating, I think, to the world through him, and I certainly was not going to disagree with him about that, and for all I know, maybe it's true. It involved a huge amount of time and effort to create this event, which we staged not in a publicly available venue, but actually in the Temple of Zeus in the center of Athens, which had never been used for any kind of a large-scale public event. And I now know more about the bureaucracy of the antiquities in Greece than I would ever need to know or want to know. I actually had to go and meet with the Minister of Culture and the Deputy Ministers of Culture and the people in charge of archaeological treasures there. Apparently in Athens, not just in Athens, but all over Greece, you can't even build a home in Greece because everything literally is ruins. You know, underneath the surface, a few inches down, on any street or backyard in Greece, there is some antiquity waiting to be damaged if a builder were to plunge a shovel the wrong way. And I helped in bringing Kathleen Battle and Jesse Norman to him, who were two artists who I had worked with over the years. And you know, they were kind of an interesting pair to bring into this project because they themselves had been considered by the public to be professional rivals. One of the ways in which I'm able to conduct myself in my current position as the head of the Metropolitan Opera is to not tell tales out of school about artists. It's really not a good idea if one wants to deal with them.
When I first met Vangelis, he was very interested in NASA and space science and exploration and what it really meant. I mean, not just going to the moon, of course that's intriguing to us all, but also just the idea of learning about ourselves. And we started to look at a lot of the NASA research and compare it back to how the ancient Greeks thought and how did they derive certain things. And often we would center it on fundamental questions of, where did we all come from? What is the real origin of the universe? What is the origin of Earth? What was the Big Bang like? How did physics, often when we go to explore the universe, cosmologists have mapped out various kinds of equations and ideas that actually use math and music. And the idea of harmony and harmonics is exactly how we describe the universe itself. Introduced me to a lot of different kinds of experts, people that knew ancient Greek, people that studied music, and we started to put together almost a team of people with different expertise, and I liken it to the way the ancient Greeks actually did it. Advances were made by people coming together from different disciplines. The idea of a philosopher, a mathematician, a scientist, an artist, and a musician all meeting and discussing important topics really allows you to make connections that otherwise are very difficult to make inside your own field. And in fact, this was really the idea of the university, was to bring this kind of a academic environment together where you had different disciplines. And so we started to help each other on different projects. He helped me on some of mine, I helped him on some of his, and eventually that led to Methodia. With NASA, I had been working on a mission called Galileo, which was a spacecraft that was orbiting Jupiter and eventually dropped a probe into the atmosphere of Jupiter to measure its composition. And NASA, because they're a government agency, they cannot advertise and they can't market themselves, but they can educate and they can reach out and do things that help the public understand. And that's what this really was about, was helping the public realize the excitement of the space program and how it might connect to music. And so NASA was pushing things on their website. Vangelis was looking at things that he could do. And eventually, the collaboration was such a success that NASA even recognized Vangelis with a NASA medal.
Vangelis has a huge fan base amongst the astronomy community. They adore him. They even named some asteroid after him. I remember Vangelis explaining to me that various astronomers had felt that there was some real connection between what these extraterrestrial sounds that were being picked up, because of course sounds are always being picked up in outer space, and there was some relation to what they were hearing in outer space and some of the music that Vangelis had written.
Vangelis is like a child and a genius all mixed together. His interest in the world and the universe and nature is unbounded. I mean, he's constantly thinking about stuff. And, but at the same time, he's like a child in the sense of, being amused at almost everything. In many ways, the idea of space science, the fundamental questions we all had as children, the fact that we don't know the answer of where we came from or how we got here. And he's still thinking of it all the time, constantly.
Although we spend a lot of effort and money and all that to do this, and everybody agreed, and you remember about what happened with Methodia. In the end, I think that the record company, they never believed that this record is commercial. I think it's been buried from the record company. I'm in a very bad position to say that because I'm the composer, I'm the artist, as they say. And of course, the artist also will blame the record company, as usual. I have the experience and a lot of other successes in my life not to say that. And I know what I'm saying. And I can judge if the record company does, the right thing or the wrong thing. And I didn't expect Methodius to become, a #1 record because of its content. But I never expect the company to drop it either.
We left, I think, a reel or two with him for a couple of days or a week. And I used to go back there at night. On the way home, I'd just hop around the back and into the studio and usually have something like, there's always some curry or Chinese food lying all over the place and some beers. And in those days, I'd be smoking cigars and beer and the whole thing was fantastic. Loved all that. It's all cleaned up, isn't it? What a pity, all right? And we're all so bloody politically correct and so healthy. And he said he was always, it was like being in the cave of a magician. And he would say, look at this. And he would play it to it. He'd play and muck about and pull knobs and push steam knobs and things. I don't know what the hell he was doing. But one way or another, it was truly magical. I'd be there till 2 a.m. sometimes. I think 3 a.m. one occasion, lying there, smoking, drinking, and watching him just muck about. He said, oh, okay, well, I want you to just see this, I've got an idea. And he'd say, watch, boom, screen would run, and you were actually bringing people into a universe that they hadn't really seen before.
I don't dislike working on films, although it's a very, very painful situation. And it's painful because of all the pressures, because everybody is under pressure. And the film is a very, very, very difficult business, because first of all, it costs a lot of money. And many things are there at stake. So already the people that are working for a film, they're really in a great pressure. No, it's easy. Alexander cost, to me a few kilos. My engineer had a heart attack. Things like that is good.
Nothing was straightforward about Blade Runner from the very beginning. We reshot some early stuff because really wasn't happy about it, which automatically put us virtually over budget from this stuff. But the worst thing that happened was that the day after we finished shooting, both Ridley and I received a letter from the lawyers of the partial financiers, Frenchie and Yorkin, dismissing us from the picture on the grounds that contractually, if we went 10% over budget, they could. And we were 10% over budget, which is not at all uncommon. So because they had loathed us by then, they just said, you're fired.
You can't sit there thinking, I wonder if they'll like it. You can't. When you finish a mix, or every phase that you finish, you're looking at the editing process, then you're going to enter the scoring process, then you're going to enter the mixing process, then you're going to look at it finished. Then the danger is you test it. There's always some jerk who'll say, do you know, I say, shut the fuck up,
There was debate because the picture didn't have a good ending, and at one point we'd actually borrowed a piece of film from Stanley Kubrick from The Shining and stuck that on the end, which he generously doesn't do. It was a happy ending. Everyone wanted a happy ending at this point. And when we played the picture in the screenings, previews and things, half the people said it was terrific, and half said they didn't know what the hell was going on. Hence the famous voiceover, which we all agreed had to be done. Harrison didn't want to do it, but it had to be done.
There was a voiceover narration attached to the original script. And I said to Ridley that I played a detective who does no detecting. How about we take some of this information that's in the voiceovers and put it into scenes, and so that the audience could discover the information, discover the character through seeing him in the context of what he does, rather than being told about it. We spent a couple of weeks sitting around my kitchen table trying to find ways to accomplish that. I went in to do the voiceover narration, and I was looking around for somebody. The room was there and the mic was set up, but there was nobody around. So I went to a nearby room, and there was a guy in a little gray hobby suit with one of those twist-together belts with the little elastic around it. And he had a little pipe, I believe, and he was hammering away at a little portable typewriter. I thought, this must be a writer. So I leaned and I said, "Hi, I'm Harrison. How you doing?" And I got this. So I went away, and about 15 minutes later he appeared, obviously the author of what I was to read. And I thought, this guy is so far away from the process that I mustn't fall into the trap of trying to discuss this with him. Simply do it the best you can, and go home, because I had arduously argued to try and get the best version that we could of the narration, even though I didn't think it was necessary.
After that, the notes which we received were all about how dreadful the film was in many different ways. It wasn't just dreadful, it was dreadful for several good reasons in their minds. I mean, the first one was, where's the Vangelis music? Well, obviously it wasn't there yet. We don't put it on a rough cut. Opening's too choppy, voiceover's dry and monotonous. The voiceover is terrible, the audience will fall asleep, and so on. Appalling remarks. One, the great one, the seventh note that I've got, was this movie gets worse every screening. That's pretty good.
And then you have the wife of the producer, the girlfriend, who says, you know, I don't think it's quite nice, and the producer with this guy says, okay, cut it down, you know, all this bullshit. So, in the end, there's a big mess.
Quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it? That's what it is to be a slave.
We were doing a 36-hour day because we had to finish. Roy Batty suddenly came to me and said, I want to talk to Ridley about some lines. And I said, we can't do that now, we're rushing. Last thing I wanted was Ridley to get down off his camera platform and start discussing lines. But anyway, this guy wanted to do it. And Ridley said, thank you, yes, okay, do it. So that was never written in the script, or never written. They never said that. There's lines by Roy Batty. Pretty good.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-Hauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
At its highest level, music is the final and the last dialogue that goes into the movie, because I gradually realized that music is almost dialogue. It's telling you something, and it's telling you emotionally. I don't mean sentimentally, emotionally, it's telling you something. It's telling you whether to be frightened, whether to be afraid, or whether to be, it pushes buttons. It pushes emotional buttons. Now, I know composers don't like to hear that, but it's true. Somebody said to me, God wants you so manipulative in the films you make. And I said, well, isn't that what theater is? That's what we do. Vangelis is maybe the most successful and innovative of these guys. That's why he's the best.
My parents left Athens during the war because during the Second World War, the people in Athens died from hunger. It was a terrible situation. And many people, I mean, in order to survive, left Athens and they went to villages, to places that they could find a little food. And my grandfather used to earn a lot of land, and he had a lot of bread, fruits, oil, olives, things that could survive. I mean, that's why my family survived. Although I didn't understand at the time, later I understood that they've been through, through hell. I mean, there's been a war and a civil war. But they made it such a way that nothing of those things touched anybody of us, my brother and myself. Yeah. I was born in a village, actually, near Volos. Volos, it's in the middle of Greece, about maybe almost 200 miles from Athens, north, by the sea. Marvelous at the time, beautiful town. A lot of gardens and flowers, because this place, it's at Pelion, near Pelion. Pelion, it's this mountain, the mythological mountain of the centaurs. And this mountain is known because of the vegetation. It's a lot of green. And which is incredible, because in this area, I mean, you can feel the seasons. You can feel the winter, very heavy winter, with snow on the top. You can feel the autumn, which is extraordinary colors, the pastel colors. You can feel the summer, of course. And the spring, which is, I mean, you can faint from the aroma, all the flowers, extraordinary. This is the house that I grew up. That was my first piano. And my first friend, real friend. The funny thing about that is that I don't remember, I just found myself, I remember myself sitting on the piano, but I never remember how I started, which means that I had to start very, very early. I never, because most of the times people say, oh yes, we had the piano in at the age of, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 10, took some lessons and, I started playing the piano. But I don't remember that. I remember sitting there.
He lives everything to the full, I think. When he smokes cigars, wonderful cigars he smokes, and he loves them, and he eats in the most totally enjoyable way. He enjoys everything. I mean, I'm sure he's had enormous depressions. In fact, I've been through a big depression with him. But, when he had problems with his boyhood friend, became his manager, and then became his demon. And I think they were pals from way back and wanted to do what Vangelis did. He wanted to be a musician and didn't have the talent. Somehow he became his confidant and his friend, took over his business affairs, and Vangelis, being a very trusting and open man, it gave him power over everything. It's a terrible lesson. Nobody can be trusted on those kind of affairs. And certainly Vangelis was obviously making enormous sums of money coming in. He's a very successful composer. Actually defrauded him of everything, up to the point that Vangelis found out. Then he scarpered, disappeared to Spain, I think. He couldn't be found. I mean, it's an appalling story. It's happened to many artists. You know, they put themselves and their affairs in the hands of accountants or business managers, and they disappear. But that's what's happened, and it's very sad. It must have been a very traumatic thing for him to be betrayed by your best friend. Terrible. Loyalty is vital for him. Yeah, loyalty is totally vital for Vangelis. Absolutely.
My mother used to play the piano and sing classical stuff, lieder, and she used to accompany herself. And because I had a good ear, I just remember those things, and I would play with her, and even with a little accordion sometimes, because I couldn't carry the piano outside in the garden. And then I had this little accordion my uncle bought for me, and I used to accompany my mother when she used to sing some, you know, nice, beautiful songs, some ballads and things like that. I remember those moments. I never used to go out and play with my friends with the same age, but spend my time with the piano. That was a different conversation. I still have this piano because I had in front of me the sound, although it was not the only sound, because I used to produce sound with all the objects of the house, especially the kitchen stuff. Great. I mean, use the glasses and water and change the pitch and all the pans of my mother, and all the time like that. I think that, you know, my mother, she was quite good. I mean, she never really been angry or something, because I used to break some. I used to open the piano and do things like adding things between the strings and things like that, metal things or other things, in order to create sounds and to obtain things that a normal piano doesn't do. By creating those sounds, which actually for my mother it was quite extraordinary and quite strange, for me it was a wonder, because I used to obtain incredible things out of the piano. And then another thing I used to do, I used to go under the piano, especially when my mother used to play. And I was so impressed to hear the sound coming from above and hit my head, boop, 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 like that. And under the piano, it was my little house with some toys. And that was really a very safe place to be. Listen. When you are successful, I think it's very important for your mother more than for yourself. And when we had the first success, big success in France, exactly at that time, I've been waiting for her to visit me in Cannes, in France, south of France. And suddenly she died. And that was, you know, a terrible thing, because I know that parents die somehow, sometime, but I think she died at the wrong time, wrong moment. It was really a terrible blow for me.
I'm used to dealing with artists with fragile personalities. I mean, I think that he is a very warm, expansive individual, one of the most generous human beings I've ever met. But you know, one thing I've learned with great artists, Vangelis included, is you should never take for granted that one aspect of their personality automatically extends to all other parts of it. And certainly he explained to me in the course of my working with him that he had been burned or betrayed a few times by people with whom he had trusted, and that obviously that he bore the scars of those betrayals. And so it was understandable, but somewhat contradictory. He's on the one hand, he's full of warmth and friendship. On the other hand, he is deeply suspicious. It took me a while to earn his trust. You know, he made me feel that I wanted to earn his trust, and which is, you know, I didn't want to let him down either.
I think he's very protective of the relationships he forges. I get the sense he's someone who's been hurt a great number of times, he lives in a cocoon, and he was just very careful about who was allowed into that cocoon.
Somebody said to me, you always say no. I said, I don't say no. I don't say easily yes to unnecessary things. That's quite a different thing. Because you have the negative people, whatever you say no, no, no. But not to say easily yes, that's another way of thinking, another way of living. For years, people have been saying that I don't like to fly, for example. You know, it's been in every paper. And I have so many bits of films myself in a plane, in a cockpit, you know, laughing and you know, and joking and all that. So, I mean, if you want to know anything, just ask me. Don't believe what people say and write. I don't need a record company's contracts in order to record something, and I don't need a film in order to create a piece of music. I do it anyway. And I find out that the periods that I was out of a contract, I worked really in a much better way. It's not something strange or unusual for me to work every day without thinking that this is for that particular project or another project. Same thing with painting. I paint all my years and never thought to exhibit. Normally people, they prepare the exhibition, or singer prepares his new album. It happens like that in this business. With me, no. It happens every day, even if I don't have any, let's call it, commission.
He's a person who loves time, at the same time who loves to take a lot of time, who doesn't play the stressful game of some of our world in a way. And on the other hand, when you visit his home, the time stops. There is no sense of time. Vangelis loves to talk about life, about anything, until at least 10 o'clock in the morning. And the later or the earlier it gets, the more awake and full of energy, and more energy he seems to get. I'm already dropping. And sometimes I also visited him with other musicians. So we would be 3 young musicians on the couch with Vangelis, and one of us would drop at a certain point, so then the other 2 would try to keep up with him, then the other one dropped. But Vangelis was just, keeps going.
I mean, at the beginning, when I started to make my first albums, they started completely against the flow at the time. The record shops, they didn't know where to put my album, in which box, because you know that they have boxes. Everything in life, you have to be in boxes. Then gradually, when I passed the 4th or 5th album, then I had my own box. And then, you know, when I started with the film scores, it goes to another box. So you had movies, Vangelis as Vangelis, And then you had the New Age. Then immediately they find out that the albums that I was making, they belong to the New Age. I mean, this is, the marketing titles that some very clever people, they always invent in order to frame the whole thing. And then, I end up being, in different boxes again, but always boxes. The boxes multiply. I was trying to get out of the boxes and maybe to create another box, you know what I mean? And that was, the big problem with my career. And still, if you ask me today, I believe that I've done nothing except a few successful albums. But this is, compared to what I record every day, this is nothing.
I was feeling very inspired by his way to open windows in the heaven. So we wanted to do, first thing at all, sort of, I cannot say an audition, but to meet and to find out how he composed his work and how maybe I can fit him inside his music, I mean. Doing Le Chant de l'Esprit, that was for the Rise of Peace in Paris, and we have sung it there in the UNESCO. He has done wonders all over his life. Ready to help people, ready to do things for people, because the first time, for example, that the bells of Kremlin sound in that big place, after 72 years, this was forbidden, it was with his music, because it was a concert, a benefit concert to help children, handicapped children, and the emotion was all over the big place. And, to sing that and hear his music together with the bells, it was incredible. The Pope was crying. And of course, we have to thank him that he has done this for the children, handicapped children.
My mother, she was a mezzo-soprano. She never, of course, became a professional because at the time it was not seen very well to be an artist. That's society rules, right? But my parents never stopped me by doing things that I would like to do. Partly because I started so early and I never gave them a chance for something else. So that was obvious when they see, a child, just start to play its own compositions at the age of 3 to 4, I can't remember. It was, it was very difficult to say to this child, don't do that. My father was not an artist, but my father loved, the music, and we used to go to concerts and things like that together.
Vangelis' father was an Olympic athlete. He had an immediate understanding and nostalgia or love for athletics. His way of working was really that he just used to see the film and perform to the film. So you got a completely instinctive, emotionally gut reaction.
I knew it was the defining thing of my career, that if this film didn't work, I probably shouldn't be in the business. But I knew it was good. But on the other hand, I didn't have any kind of absolute validation. For example, I screened it one evening to a large group of people from the Sunday Times. And the screening just went badly. I don't know what was wrong. The same movie that you saw just went badly, and they walked out, and I knew they hated the film. And I just sat there on my own in the screening room, just devastated. That, if these people, some very nice people in Sunday Times, didn't like it, who on earth was going to like it?
The winner is Chariots of Fire.
They've taken what is absolutely a Cinderella picture and awarded it this, and come to see it in droves. It's absolutely extraordinary.
This is a film that was made despite every single obstacle that was thrown up in its way, including being turned down by the BBC, being turned down by 20th Century Fox.
And we ran it for the then head of distribution, who saw it, came to see the film. Halfway through the film, said he needed just to run up to the loo, and he never ever came back. We never saw him again. The greatest piece of luck was the film was run for one of the sports heads of one of the networks, and offered to him was a made-for-TV sports movie. And he ran it quite early one morning, I remember vividly, and turned it down flat, didn't want to buy it at any price. So we were saved from going to television because the film wasn't regarded as good enough.
My father lived through the Paris years and through the London years until the Chariots of Fire. And then he died, just a little bit before I got the Oscar. It would have been great for my father, of course. Everything has been calculated like this. There's nothing I can do about it. Hugh Hudson, when he asked me to do the music of the movie, to score the movie, he said, you do the rest and we keep, it's yours anyway, we keep this theme for the beginning. And I said, but maybe I can do something else. He said to me, no, you can't beat this one. This is really great.
At the very last minute, I can't remember how late in the day it was. It was pretty late in the day. I got a call. My wife and I were at a restaurant in London. I got a call from him saying, where are you? He said, stay right there, don't move. We weren't going to move anyway, but don't move. I'm going to come and see you. And 15 minutes later, he drove up in his Rolls Royce and came into the restaurant, got us to come out, sat in the back of the roller, and he said, I want you to hear something. And he put the theme on. And we sat there, and I think we both were knocked out. It was very, very impressive. A big bass in the back of a car. And then I looked at him, and I realised that he was crying. He said, my dad was an Olympian, which I hadn't known. He'd never mentioned it before. Was in the 1936 Olympics. He said, it's a requiem for him. And he said, this is the key. He said, I realise, actually, I'm writing it for my dad.
night of the Oscars, of course, Vangelis wasn't there. And I don't think he's really interested in it, you know. Now it means a lot to him. He won an Oscar. Quite good, I suppose, to win an Oscar for music. And also, he changed film music, changed the nature of film music. From then onwards, it was all done by one person. But he wasn't there, and he had to be rung up. I don't know who rang him up, myself or Putnam, I don't know. But he was asleep.
I believe that we lost the Olympic Games. We don't have Olympic Games anymore, real Olympic Games. We have something else that we call it Olympic Games, but it's not what I believe and what I think the Olympic Games meant to be. Because it's a commercial operation. Games are games for also, you know, the gladiator games or any game. It's not the same thing. It's not the same purpose. It's not the same behavior, it's not the same ideal, although every time, you know, when the beginning, it's the president and the other president, you know, all presidents around, and they talk about these ideals and da-da-da, and all this bullshit. And it's nothing to do with that. It's an opportunity after 4 years for every company to push the Olympic Games products, like the athletes, to push them to advertise their products. That's all it is, nothing else. And then, of course, there is a big problem about doping and all that. How you expect today the athletes not to get drugs, the moment that the whole philosophy is to not only to get first, but to advertise products like shoes, like whatever, yeah, I mean, you know. So it's big money behind. There's big money. So there's nothing to do. I mean, sometimes I'm not against money. We all need money, but there are some moments we have to function without this money philosophy, because we need points of reference. We need standards, because I believe that the only point of reference left to humanity today, the gathering together every 4 years in a peaceful way, is the Olympic Games. That you realize what music means and you respect that, immediately it becomes very demanding. Music is not a joke. It's a very serious thing. Serious thing doesn't mean serious in a way, you know, serious. You can laugh, I mean, you can, but you have to be always there. You have to be ready. You have to, I mean, I spend hours and hours and hours with all this system, my system, all that I create around. It needs a lot of practice. I play hours. These fingers, they've done, you know, miles and miles every day. And it's not only that, it's the connection between my brain, my fingers, my whole body. It's, I work like an athlete. I know many people, they say that when they are with other people, they're more lonely than when they're alone. When you are with music, you're not alone. I mean, I've never been alone with music. But loneliness can come for other things. Society can create a lot of loneliness, more and more. And we have to be prepared for that, how to deal, to have little psychological devices in order to prevent or to accept the loneliness. What else? Tell me.